What's good, guys? I'm Javi, one of the co-hosts for Good State Podcast. Today I'm here with Jackson and Tristan.
Yeah. What's good? What up, Javi? Thanks for having us.
Yeah, so these are the new Good State podcast hosts. Me and I decided, we're calling it quits. So
Yeah. So thank you for having us. But for real, thank you for letting us kind of hijack your show for a couple episodes to kind of promote the new art series that we're putting on with Color the Creek and the ACC of Battle Creek. Shout out V for kind of getting this ball rolling and kind of taking this vision and we, maximize it. Coming up April 15th on tax day, we got the first one from 8 to 10. Jack, tell us who it is.
So we're going to be hosting two photographers here, are Haley and Deja. It's going to be from 8 to 10. There's going to be signature cocktails. There's going to be a DJ spinning. And CALOR is a quarterly art show that we're going to be putting on. And we're going to have a featured artist and then a supporting artist. And the premise of these art shows is to just bring the culture to Battle Creek. Everybody's been clamoring for it, and that's what we're going to do. And so we're getting the featured artist, and then the supporting artist is going to be hopefully kind of learning the ropes from that featured artist, and we're going to be trying to help propel them further in their art career because I know that it can be challenging to start.
CALOR, it's hot.
Hell yeah, make sure you guys come by. And thank you guys so much for having me and OTS on. We deeply appreciate it. So
Thanks a lot, man.
Thank you.
Welcome back to the Good Stay Podcast, where the stay is good. I am your co-host, OTS, a.k.a. Big Baby, a.k.a. Where have you been? Because I've been gone for almost a month now. It seems like a long time. Go ahead.
Your boy Javi, a.k.a. Vampiro, a.k.a. Java Banks, a.k.a. Javier Jr.
Junior.
I have a couple nicknames that a couple people call me by, but for the most part, everyone knows me as Javi.
It's good to be back, and also it is great to be filming for the Art Cultural Collective of Battle Creek and also Cafe Rica.
Yeah, Breaking Bread and Color the Creek. Thank you guys so much for sponsoring this episode. There's an event April 15th, Que Calor. So make sure you guys come out, check that out. They're going to be showcasing two photographers. And today we have one of the photographers, Haley, also known as Sugar Milkk.
Very
Milk,
dope.
a.k.a. Sugar Milk.
Hell yeah. So if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and just kind of let them know what you do and who you are.
Okay, well, as you said, I'm Haley Scott, a.k.a. Sugar Milk. Do I talk to the camera? I don't know.
You can talk
You
to
can
the
talk
camera.
to
you
us.
can talk
Yeah,
to
it's
us.
just- yeah,
I'm
you
here
can take
with
to
you,
us.
right?
Yeah.
I'm a professional artist focusing in photography for over 13 years. So I work with mostly, I would say, athletes, musicians, actors, just basically celebrity, but high profile, whatever. But
Okay.
I work with people, editorial, yeah.
Hell yeah, that's
dope.
awesome. Now, I kind of want to take it back to the beginning. So where are you originally from and what got you into photography?
I'm from all over. I'm a military baby.
Ah.
So I grew up in Georgia, south of Atlanta, and then I came up to Battle Creek, and I went to high school here in Battle Creek, middle school and high school here.
Okay.
And then after that, I went to Detroit. I went to College for Creative Studies in Detroit. I stayed in Detroit for a while, and then Southside Chicago
Oh,
for
wow.
about 7 years, and then L.A., Hollywood. That's the last thing that's on my driver's license. And now I'm figuring that out.
Right.
That's pretty dope.
Let's take it back to Battle Creek for a little bit. You said you were here for middle school and high school?
I came here. Wait, you go ahead.
Oh, I was just wondering, were you pursuing art then or photography then?
I've always pursued art. Like ever since I was born, I've just was a creative kid, an artistic kid. So art has always been a thing. Music has always been a thing for me too. So I pursued both of those, and I was actually heavily pursuing music first. And then I didn't feel like I was able to express myself the way that I wanted to express myself. So I focused more in visual arts. And when I did that, honestly, I fell into photography. Like I never really had access to something like that before high school. So when I started doing that instead of painting or drawing or whatever other type of craft, I fell in love with it. Other people fell in love with what I was doing too, and it just took off. So
That's interesting. So a question I have is, you said you started with music, right? When did you fully start pursuing photography? Like, when did you actually picked it up and you considered it your thing?
Probably middle high school. Yeah, I think did my first professional job. I shot a full wedding my junior year of high school.
Oh, wow.
So that
That's
was
major.
So that was okay, terrifying also.
Yeah, it is.
But that was my first okay, I'm making money. This is kind of real, So, and that was also the end of junior years when I got looks from my eventual college, and they picked me up and kind of secured me. So going into senior year, I knew that I was going to be dedicating myself to that. So I guess sophomore, junior year, it started to become more and more real and something that I really found a way to express myself in.
Now, would you say that being in Battle Creek, what was your experience like being a photographer here in Battle Creek at that time? What do you say, there was a lot of support? Was it kind of, were you going out to downtown to take pictures? Did you have friends that were down to help you, either take pictures or be models for you? Like, how was your experience being a photographer in Battle Creek?
I would say that during my time here in Battle Creek, there was not much going on, especially from what I saw artistically.
Right.
So if it wasn't for my friends and other people that I was going to school with and other people that I was around, at the time, since I was involved with music, I was going to a lot of shows, taking concert photos, things like that. So if it weren't for them, I wouldn't have even had a way to make my art,
Right.
I did a lot of self-portrait work before selfie was a word, before Instagram existed, before all these things. But, and I definitely had, my friends model for me. It was always I set up my little basement studio and did what I could off of $0. So just us having fun and making things happen. And I didn't have a lot by any means. So even the cameras at the time that I was using in high school were rented from high school class, and then were, on their Photoshop or my bootleg Photoshop at the time. So I just was doing a lot of making a way out of no way of if I don't have the right equipment, I gotta edit it to look even better. And those kind of things taught me to be a better artist at the end of the day. So, but yeah, back then it wasn't a lot going on in Battle Creek. So, I mean, if there was and I overlooked it, that's my bad. But from what I could reach or see, it wasn't a lot. And it wasn't aside from what I could pursue in school, it wasn't support. It wasn't I remember those were things that I would even get looked down upon or high school bullied about of being the art or theater kid instead of whatever else. So yeah.
That's pretty dope. Going back to what you kind of said as far as how Battle Creek was back then, I think that's why one thing we need to do is make sure we give flowers to everybody in the city that's actually trying to contribute to the actual culture and create, a consistent culture.
Right.
In Battle Creek, from the Color the Creek or anything the Black Sheep Collective does or anything Torty Taco has, you know what I mean?
Right.
Definitely.
I know exactly what you mean as far as how the culture was then, and then trying to be inspired into kind of how it's shifting now. So from Battle Creek, you left Battle Creek and went to school in Detroit. Am I correct? How was that transition from when you started? What's the art school? Is that
College for Creative Studies.
Yeah. So what was what was the transition like from here to the College of Creative Studies in Detroit?
Man, I mean, it was just my whole world opened up because especially going to that college, I was really fortunate to be there, and I had all of the resources under the sun now to create, to do everything I ever wanted, basically, just you got to make it, you got to create it, but we'll give you all of the tools. So that was incredible because I was able to touch things I never had the reach for before.
Right.
And then Detroit being the city that it was, especially back when I was there, it's not the city that it is today, but it was like a playground. Like it was like there's all of these buildings, like, you know, especially how it used to be, it was a lot of ruins and stuff. There's all of that. There's just like the freedom. There's culture. There's so much culture.
Yeah.
There's so much like different people pursuing different things and like striving for different means, you know? So it's just the most inspiring place to this day to me.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I was really thankful to, I feel like I call that home, and I will like rep Detroit every day because it's like out of everywhere I've lived, I've attached the most to there, and that made me who I was like in my heart more than anywhere else. So
Right. Okay, that's cool.
And how did your photography jobs change? So you said you had your first job here, it was a wedding. Did you start doing different, I'm assuming you started doing different type of content up in Detroit. So what was that like? Like, were you doing more shows? Were you doing more portraits? Like, how did your actual work change from Battle Creek to Detroit?
yeah, I mean, of course I always did the things like weddings. I still do to this day. So like those types of things are always something good to do, you know, be well versed in. But I was able to start shifting what I was doing into who I was around more. So I, of course, was getting very involved in the hip hop scene, and that has carried on to this day. So through a waitressing job back in the day is how I got involved in the hip hop scene out in Detroit, because it was like one of those notorious, like some you would see in 8 Mile, which I've never seen, but I'm a guess. Like it's like something like that. Like it's like was the hip hop club downstairs. So like that went from like waiting tables to like, now let me also shoot down here. Let me also like get to know these people, like
That's
things
dope.
like that.
That's dope.
Yeah. And that's where I got my name Sugar Milk too. So
Oh,
wow.
so I was like, I got my street name basically, which turned into my artist name.
Right,
and
right.
like now it's like
So-
it just forever.
That's dope. That's
crazy.
that's a cool story.
So can you tell us specifically how that name was even created? Like, do you want to tell us?
I'll tell you whether you want to put it in your podcast or not.
Oh, it's in there. We're
it's gonna be in there.
We're already rolling.
It's
It's in there.
unfiltered.
But yeah, so I mean, I was waiting on one of the tables. I'm pretty sure, like, you know, you can bleep the name out, but it was Royce the 5'9's table, and it wasn't him that I got the name from, unfortunately. I wish I could say that, but it was just one of his boys. Like they was just calling me over, like baby, shorty, whatever.
Oh,
like,
okay.
come with it. And so with my little Detroit attitude, I was like, if you're gonna keep calling me over here, you can use my name. And I told my name, which is Haley, and they're like, we are not going to call you Haley. We're not going to like chop Haley. Like, there's no way. So I was like, okay, when I come back, like, I want a name. Like, I want my own name. And so when I came back with their drinks, one of the guys was like, your name is Sugar Milk, because I'm sweet like sugar and white like milk.
I like
But
that.
then it
what's
just
up.
like my boss overheard it at the time, and it was just like from then it just like stuck.
Sugar
So,
Milk.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Hell
That's
yeah.
crazy.
That's dope. It's a dope name too,
It
though.
is. It
I
is.
know. I
It
think I
is.
was like destined to be some type of rapper, but I just couldn't.
You never recorded any music?
I wish I could. I wish I could. I should, but no, I'm scared.
So you you said the place you were at, it had a hip hop club downstairs.
Yeah.
So was the coverage on like anybody that's kind of like major now, or was it just like a lot of well-known local acts that you were covering as far as like video and photography? Was it like
It was
major?
everything.
Oh,
It was everything. I mean, that was the start of Danny Brown days.
Oh,
you know,
wow.
Danny Brown,
Oh, wow.
that was the start of like a lot of people. And it was also, I mean, Detroit, I don't know if you know, was like huge on techno and house and things
Oh, yeah.
like that. So
Yeah.
a lot of like international people were coming through. It was like just such a notorious spot that people were just in and out. So yeah, I got to shoot a lot of people. I mean, I probably don't even have any of those photos. now,
Right.
but
Wow.
yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
goodness.
Who was like the first big profile that you were like, oh wow, like I'm really that you were excited about?
My first celebrity, I think, was Neo.
Oh shit!
The singer?
'Cause I'm so
Yeah.
sick
Oh,
of
wow.
love songs.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's the last
that was
person
first.
I would have thought.
That was my first. It was a random, like the most random person offered it to me too. It was like at the Magic Stick, I think, in Detroit, and it was just like, hey, this like hipster dude I knew was like, I don't even want to shoot Neo. I'm not interested. I'm like, I want to shoot Neo.
Wow.
You know, so that was my first, yeah, but.
That's pretty dope.
Yeah, but then,
That's
it,
awesome.
you know, like as things do, they take off, they snowball. And I never really like advertised. I never really like did all that. I just did my work, and people saw it, and they were like, "Yeah, I need some of that." You know what I mean? So I just kept doing that.
They was falling in love with the aesthetics of it.
As they should.
Right,
yeah.
Right.
Now, was this like before Instagram was popping like that?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Because
Okay.
does anybody know when Instagram started? Like what
Yeah,
year?
I know. Instagram started
2011,
2012, I think.
12?
2010.
Yep.
It might have been 2010.
It was so
Golly.
Early
you
2010s.
couldn't get it
for
on
sure.
iPhone. You can or it was only on iPhone. You couldn't get it on Android.
And I feel like it didn't really
That's
start.
when the iPhone race started really happening. I
Yeah.
traded all my stuff for iPhone.
And it didn't really start popping until what, like 2015, 2016?
Right.
When people really
when it
started.
started?
2010. That sounds
Well,
right.
excuse me.
Yep.
And I think I was like really anti-Instagram at first, and I was like, "There's no way, like I'm not gonna. this is ruining photography."
I would say I was
like,
Crazy.
I
was
remember
one
I
of
think
them.
everybody was like
Real
that.
photographers were anti-Instagram.
Yeah, because it made
Now,
you
if
had
I
the
didn't have
filter
it,
and stuff.
yeah the filters. They were trying to mimic DSLRs and
Right,
mirrorless.
right.
Well, see, I'm not a
Analog
photographer, so I
cameras
was
and
all
things
for
like
it.
that,
I was like,
yeah.
hell yeah, I'm fucking with Instagram. Like,
Right,
I don't know
right.
how to shoot pictures. This is
Yeah,
gonna
shit.
save me.
No, I definitely tried to be pretentious about it at first, and then I was like, "It's lit."
No,
This is
I
great.
understand that wholeheartedly. But like
Yeah.
the years that you were saying around 2015, 2016 is kind of like when some of the major photographers and stuff was starting to take
Right.
off.
Yeah, like following started
Yeah.
happening. You started being
Yeah.
able to like become somebody because
Yeah.
of Instagram.
Yeah,
and
I'm
it's
pretty
like,
su-
wait a minute.
I'm pretty sure you were in Detroit at the time, so I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure you're familiar who Volandis is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm,
so I
of
started
course.
following Volandis around probably 2014.
Yep, yep.
And like I was just watching how his following went up
Yeah.
and how a couple of I think what's his name, Kodak Lens, didn't he shoot for
yeah.
Diddy at one point in time? Just those guys, just watching how the actual following of photography was growing and growing and growing and growing. You know what I mean? And I think that people seeing you guys and the whole Instagram and how they had all the filters and stuff, I feel like it opened the door for more people to want to, at least try photography out,
Yeah, I think it gave it like a resurgence in a way. Like, I mean, photography has always been huge since it came out, but I feel like it kind of has its waves and its
It does.
moments. And like, Instagram was kind of a way for like people to start taking photography more seriously again, because we kind of moved away from like the photo books or the CD album covers where you just can't wait to like flip through
Man.
like,
Right,
what's
right.
the pictures in the album covers and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
now all of my album covers, which I've shot plenty, they're only on Apple Tunes or Apple Tunes.
Wow.
My God.
Oh,
iTunes,
man.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, could you tell us specifically what album covers you?
I've shot some for G Herbo. I've shot some for Tink. I've shot some for Santa, like some smaller one. Key Queen. Well, is that Queen Key? Duh.
Queen Key?
Backwards.
Queen
I'm like,
Key.
wait
Oh.
a minute. I've shot some for Johnny P. He's like I met him through Leon Bridges, and they're like an affiliate. I've shot King Louis.
This is a lot of
That's dope.
Chicago
there's
work.
A lot.
Yeah,
There's
that's-
more.
that's awesome,
The list
yeah.
will go on.
Yeah, that's a lot of
pulled it up.
Chicago
Sick,
work.
though.
Definitely a lot of Chicago. I'm really thankful for Chicago. That's the thing. Like, Detroit was so important to me for its reasons, and then Chicago was too, because Chicago like saw what I had and just kind of like took it there. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? They
Yeah.
were like, you got this, and we want it even more. Like, Detroit was much more of like a hustle, and especially because like we was just talking about, like that was before Instagram and things like that. So it was a lot more like, how do I do this? Like, how do I make this make me money, or how do I just like continue to pursue it?
Right.
And then, I think 2015, when you said it started getting poppin', that's around when I moved to Chicago. So
Yeah.
So, what was your transition like from Detroit to Chicago? When did the opportunity present itself when you were ready to just, drive across that road? Pretty sure you took 94.
I mean,
Al Capone
unless
Trail.
you flew. Unless you
Right.
flew.
Al
but,
Capone Trail.
Yeah.
it's crazy because I never really even like visited Chicago before I moved. I visited like once in high school, I
Oh,
think.
wow.
Yeah, and then I was just like, that sounds about right. I always wanted to move to LA, and I was planning to go to LA, and I was like, nah.
I think we all were.
I think we all
Don't
were.
do it.
LA was on everybody's radar.
Right. It's not all it's cracked up to be. But
Yeah.
honestly, my emo self, I broke up with a boyfriend at the time, and I was like, fuck everything. I hate all of this. Like, I just got to get out of here. And people were like, you won't do it. You won't do it. And I'm like, yes, I will. I can do anything.
And
like,
did it.
it's not like Detroit's home to me, but, you know, it's not like I've ever lived anywhere for a long time. Like, I lived here 10 years. I lived Detroit 10 years. It's just, I move anyway.
Right.
So I was like, what's next? And I just trusted that gut feeling, and I went. And it's so funny because, like, even when I look back into when I first came to Chicago, and I don't know, maybe I was like 24. I'm not really sure how old I was, 24, 25.
Wow.
But I just felt so simple. And I, like, look back on those times, and I'm like, who even is that? Like, I just felt so, like, damn near country bumpkin because I'm like, even with Detroit, when I felt like that was such a big city, and then I came to Chicago and like all the lights are on, and like people got so much money. I'm like meeting different types of people now. I'm like frequently like working with and shooting with like millionaires, NBA players, like things like that. And so now that was just like a whole, opened my eyes to a whole nother level of this is my world, you know?
Right. That's dope. That's pretty dope.
Now, were there any, like when you did get to Chicago, was there any people that you were excited to work with, or anyone that you were like looking for, or any business or company that you were like, you know what, I'm going to go to Chicago and like I'm targeting a specific person or specific business, or you were just like, you know, whatever comes my way, I'll just figure it out then?
I mean, I'm a little embarrassed to say, but totally. I was such a big Chance the Rapper fan at the time.
Oh, shit, yeah.
Because it's just funny to say, like, I don't ever like to sound like opportunist, right? Like, I'm not trying to be like, oh, I went there. I didn't go there for Chance.
Yeah,
but when I moved to Chicago, I'm like, wait a minute. This is like, if there was anybody that would make sense for me to, like, start getting in and working with, it would be that. So that was kind of like the direction I pursued. And I have worked with him. I have been around him. I have whatever, all of the whole in-between, brothers, sisters, all of that.
Sounds like you manifested it.
Yeah.
You know, versus, you know, you wanting to go
but chicken
there.
or the egg, like, did I find out? Did he find me? Maybe. Who knows?
Right, yeah.
Came across his music back in Detroit, and I just remember my last year of college was all Chance the Rapper
Yeah.
music.
So
like
you said you fell in love with acid rap too?
Acid rap.
That was a one for
that
me too.
mixtape was crazy.
Too, of course, but like the acid rap,
Acid rap is probably one of his
was
best
different. That was
projects.
different when it came out.
It was.
Yeah.
Different time.
Right. And like when I listen to 10 Day too, of course there's like, I love it, but acid rap, man.
Right.
I think it's got a special place in everybody's heart.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah. So then I came to Chicago, and I'm like, that makes sense. Like, I'll pursue that direction. And I never worked with him in the capacity to where back then I would have dreamed for it, but it brought me so many other things in so many other directions. And I love Chance, but at the end of the day, like, I'm a hardcore little gangster at heart. So G Herbo made a lot more sense.
Yeah. So just listening to, you know, everything that you experienced in Detroit, you know, and how it kind of, you know, helped transform who you kind of are today as part of your, you know what I'm saying, your story, your background, and just listening to, you know, how you explained Chicago and, you know, all the great artists that you ran into. That's pretty dope, by the way. Could you name like a time where you were kind of in a rut and you really, because sometimes you get up, you make it to here and then you kind of plateau and then you kind of self-doubt kind of comes in. It's like random. So can you like kind of name a time where you just was like, things kind of got iffy? You know, it can either be a time in Chicago, it can be a time in between, or it could just be a time in Detroit. Pretty much those times where you were just kind of in a rut, as you would say.
Too many times to pick.
Oh,
I think I'm not always in a rut, but I'm always wanting more. So the rut is kind of like, as you've already described, like it's random and it's consistent. So you get to a point where you approach something and you become an expert in it and you just are all about it and you love it and you've kind of done everything or seen everything, like, and then you're like, all right, what's next? You know? So, I mean, I'm in a rut right now. I was in a rut 5 months ago and then I'm out of it. Like next week I'll be out of it, things like that. So for me, it's hard because like questions I hate usually is like, where do you get your inspiration from? Things like that, because I don't have a good answer for that. My inspiration as an artist literally comes from just existing.
Right.
Like, it literally comes from, like, everything around you, like the people that you meet, the colors that I see, everything. So, like, unfortunately, when I am in a rut or when I am in those, like, emotional states or whatever, that's kind of like, which is it? Like, I'm not being creative because I'm not feeling it, you know?
Right.
Like, I'm not inspired, I'm not whatever. So to get out of a rut, I have to inspire myself, and I have to figure that out. So that probably, as you've heard, kind of comes from moving,
Right.
moving around,
Yeah.
getting out, meeting new people, doing new things, like pursuing new things. And as a photographer, I'm such a philanthropist anyway, anthropologist. Like, I'm a adventurer. Like, I do this because I love to, like, appreciate all of the adventures that I take, basically. So I'm just kind of like, as long as I can, like, continue to do and, like, be and, like, whatever, and make art translating what I'm seeing and feeling, like, I can be out of that rut. But if I can't do that, then I'm like a tiger in a cage. It sucks.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting you say that, because, like, the older I get and the more I just go through, like, business and art and stuff, I realize, like, I think a lot of successful people are kind of always in a rut. You know, the way you said, like, what's next, you know, like, I feel like that's why people are successful, because, you know, you don't
never
just
satisfied.
like, you don't just hit your goal and stop. Like, I feel like successful people, you just keep going, like, find a new goal.
got
So
to.
it just makes a lot of sense what you just said, you know, like, it just seems like it's a rut, but it's also like you just keep going every
Yeah.
single day. You know,
Exactly.
it's just, that's what makes you successful, you know?
Right.
Exactly. I definitely agree. You know, a rut is really a learning experience. You're just trying to really figure out how you can elevate, you know.
Yeah, because I don't do any of this because, like, I saw it and I wanted to.
Right.
Like, I didn't, like, see somebody being a photographer and was like, oh, I want to do that. You know what I mean? And for me, it was like, how do I properly express with the tools in front of me who I am and what I feel? So for me, like, the camera is just the easiest paintbrush, really, you know?
Right.
Like, it's just what's easiest for me to get those thoughts out in the timely fashion.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Is there anyone that you specifically want to work with that you haven't yet, that's kind of, like, close, or you know, nearby?
Oh, well, I don't know about nearby, but there's so many people I want to work with. Beyonce. Like, I want to work with Andre 3000.
Oh, my
That'd
God.
be dope.
I
That,
would love
yeah.
Dennis Rodman.
Oh, that'd be hard too.
Right. I want to work with, like, I really just like interesting, unapologetically themselves people. Like, I like, a lot of my work will surround a certain type of people, and that's not just hip hop or whatever. It's the people in hip hop who are being their true selves.
Right.
You know, it's the people in sports who are being different, like making a different way for themselves, like something like that. So there's so many different people in all walks of life that it's just like, I really admire who they are, you know?
Yeah.
So, or
Oh,
I
yeah.
just want to work with, like, an alien like that.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Alien, that's a perfect word, too.
it is a perfect word. So I'm one of those camera guys that like to get into specifics. So, as far as, like, how you shoot, like, what would you say would be your favorite shooting style, or not shooting style, but how you would prefer to shoot? I'm pretty sure you were familiar at a point in time on Instagram where the digital community and the film community kind of clash, and film is looked at, you know, as a higher notch above digital, because digital, you can only do emulation if you want it to look like film. You know, and everybody was out there with their RB67s and going crazy. What would you say is like your favorite way of shooting? I guess, if you have one. I don't know, that question is kind of like broad.
Yeah, well, I mean, as far as film versus digital, first of all, I love film, but at the end of the day, it's expensive and hard.
It is.
And you're crossing your finger. Well, you are and you aren't. For me, I kind of am, because I hate math. And a lot of photography is math.
Yep.
So it's like the digital kind of helps somebody like me, because I was able to learn more about the different manual settings by seeing it represented in front of me. But at the same time, I learned first on film. And
Did
I
you?
learned, I learned
Wow.
on film, and I learned in a dark room, black and white, not color, but still, like, I learned to take it from create my negatives, print in the dark room.
Wow.
That's dope.
And it was very fun, but I also think that it's just like a different way. I don't even know how to really form this thought, but it's just like, it's much more like a painting.
Yeah.
It's more like it's so much more intentional, hands-on, like when you have to dodge or burn, like make something lighter or darker, you have to do that with your hands and like everything like that,
Oh, wow, I
like,
didn't know that.
Yeah, because like as you're exposing it, like when you enlarge a photo, like you have your negative and then you're exposing your sheet of paper to this negative, which is like how the photo is created, which is why you're in the dark room, because it's the only light that can go on it. So if there's an area of your photo that you want darker, you will like cover up that spot, or or not cover it up, like add more light to that spot, so you expose that first and then you move away so that the rest can get exposed, so kind of like that, right?
Yeah.
But it was interesting learning that way, because that helped me in digital, like knowing what burning and dodging is. If you only learn it just on Photoshop, you don't even really know what burning means to darken. You burn the light in more.
That's the only way I know is
Yeah,
Photoshop.
yeah, Photoshop.
And then like dodging is the opposite. So like because of that, it kind of helped me, and because of like drawing and things. I think we're getting off topic, but anyway.
No, we're perfectly on
Yeah,
topic.
we're good, we're good.
I just think it's interesting that I think you're probably the first person that I've seen, or first photographer that I've seen go from kind of like film and then transition to just digital, because
Yeah.
everybody that I've seen started digital and now they just do film now, for the majority of the part.
That's interesting too.
It's
Because maybe it's like a craft, film
guess
at this
so,
point
but-
is like craft coffee or craft beer or like something like
Yeah,
that almost.
craft
Like
tacos.
it's not like the only way to do something. It's more now like, let me put my music on vinyl instead
Right,
of just
right,
iTunes,
right,
you know what
right.
I mean? And I think that like there's always like a pretentiousness to everything, especially as artists. Like,
Yeah.
So I think that there's like probably to somebody who didn't like come up like, I've been doing this for over a decade, to them it's very novelty. To them it might be like, this is my new way to like be creative.
Right.
It might bring a different creativity out of them. But for me, like, especially if I have to make it like a lucrative business at the same time, and like I'd be turning around like 700 edited photos per shoot.
Oh, my
like,
goodness.
how could I ever do that with
Right.
film?
Yeah.
So-
film.
You know?
Oh no, you're not doing that with film.
Right.
Well, you can,
So,
but it'll
yeah.
take forever.
Yeah, it'll take forever.
So then I had to find the art in editing and doing that. Like, that's the reason why I could never have like an assistant, because if I were to edit like when you see like some of my portraits or things like that that are like intentional, not just like a run-of-the-mill corporate or event or whatever, it's like I build everything, the shadows, the lights, the colors, like every
Right.
aspect of it.
Yeah.
And I do that per image. Like I could never just like make a filter and then run with it.
Right.
Except I am making a filter pack for sale.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, yeah.
Hopefully
okay.
I'll have for the show. So
Oh,
Okay.
perfect.
That's-
Yeah, make sure you guys cop that. I'm gonna cop that for sure.
Definitely. I cop filter packs left and right just because I like, sometimes I like other people's creative direction.
Right.
And then you know how if you get them in Lightroom, you can also edit them.
and you tweak it.
Right,
and
right.
then if you like that, you can save that as a, a preset.
Right.
Just another more specific question. What is your favorite bodies to shoot with, camera wise?
Canon.
Oh, Canon.
Yeah.
Okay. That's lit.
Yeah.
Canon is my favorite because of the true colors.
Yeah.
The color science in Canon to me.
You shoot it with like CineStyle. You have like a color profile. Ooh, sorry, I'm
So,
gonna rip this
you talking about the like the in-camera profile? So no, I don't shoot with any in-camera profiles because I like to create right from scratch. I know some, CineStyles just give it that, that I don't know if the CineStyle and the newer body cameras like the R series. I don't know if they have.
Like I downloaded it. It's free, but it's like the certain one that it is it makes everything flat. So
Oh.
it's like what people usually shoot video in.
Yeah.
So that you can build everything. So it shoots it like the flattest color, the flattest contrast, the flattest ever, and that's what I shoot in. So it's so funny, like when I shoot somebody and they look at it and they're like,
Why does it
don't
look like this? Yeah.
what I see on your whatever. I'm like,
Yeah.
just wait though, because you're not seeing what I'm seeing right,
Right.
now.
Yeah.
So when you shoot in the flat user profile, and then you can like build in everything. So that's usually what I
Right.
do. I should have brought my camera.
See, and I like I think the R series cameras, their new R series cameras, I think they kind of still
the mirrorless ones.
yeah, the mirrorless
Okay,
ones.
see,
I think they
wouldn't know
kind of
nothing
still
about that.
shoot like the older ones, like the 5D
Nice.
Mach
They
3s
got
and
the
Mach
power to
4s.
it still.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those still have the power. But recently I have been shooting Sony. So Sony,
Yeah,
Sony
you like
just
the mirrorless.
yeah, they just have a fast shutter speed and the sharper
Good
image.
with low light.
Yep,
Yeah.
great with
Yeah.
low light. So I was just interested in what you shot with because I want to go back to Canon strictly for photos because it's you can't compete with it honestly in my
Yeah.
opinion, you know. So and I think that's pretty dope that you
Yeah. I have a
shoot
Canon
cine-
6D.
6D.
Yeah.
Oh, that's dope.
I like the mirror. I like the shutter.
Uh-huh.
I like the body and the power. I like it.
Yeah.
I think with the Apple iPhone 13.
It's all good, bro.
But honestly, that's probably the best one
It
in this
is.
conversation.
It's kind of scary because I feel like Apple eventually will drop a camera because how they're.
Why haven't they? I don't know why
I
they
could see
I think
that.
they're on the cusp
have
because
done
how
that.
their new cameras are.
They just maybe don't need to.
I feel like they are.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they better hurry before people throw out photographers in general because AI is going to take
Oh,
over.
my
yeah, that's
goodness.
crazy too.
Yeah.
I used to tell my brother, I'm like, I feel like in the future, and honestly, maybe even right now, I don't know how high school is, but I feel like photography is going to become like a class you have to take in high school. Like I feel like they're going to show everyone basic lighting, basic shadows. Like I feel like it's just like
Composition.
going to be like a basic
Yeah.
class. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like it's just going to be needed. Like every business in 2023 needs like photography. You know what I'm saying? Just
Yeah,
Yeah.
but not everybody's a photographer.
No.
Yeah,
I don't,
hey,
well, that's what I'm saying.
hey.
I don't think
Because
they're gonna
the
make.
depth
better
of
say
an
that.
artist is content creator.
I don't think they'll make everyone a photographer, but I think they'll just be like, these are like the basics.
Yeah.
Like they'll show everyone the basics eventually.
because you want to create content creators.
Yeah.
Then.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like it'll just.
I mean, it's a good skill to have.
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I feel like it'll just be looked at as an elective almost. If you want to do it, yeah. If not, because we all need food. I'm pretty sure they don't, they got
Yeah,
food.
that's true. Yeah, I get
Cooking
what you're
as
saying.
a class or culinary as a choice. But I totally get what
It
you're
might
saying.
maybe
though.
more for like the businesses because I feel like every business has some sort of content creation team now.
Yeah.
So maybe more maybe in college or something. But I feel like somewhere in school for a specific subject, it'll become like a mandatory thing.
It'll
Like,
definitely be beneficial for people to at least have some type of art knowledge so that they can appreciate art in the real
Yeah,
world.
definitely.
And understand its value. Yeah.
Now, I had a question. When you do these shoots and when you shoot high-profile people, I mean, I'm sure there's certain times that you get to kind of speak with them. And I'm very curious, and this might be a little off topic, but I'm really curious about Lil Keed.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think even you just
R.I.P.
recently,
Keed.
yeah, R.I.P. Keed, and that's kind of why I wanted to bring him up. I think he was just like a very underrated and special like rapper and artist. So how was your experience shooting him, or what was that like? Or even if you want to tell us a story on how you were able to do that.
Yeah, I shot with Lil Keed recently. That was in maybe, I don't know, last winter, I think.
Okay.
I don't know when that was exactly.
Was he in LA then? Because
Yeah,
I know he
it was
moved
out
out
in LA,
there.
and and it was in LA, and I was working at the time with Hitmaker. If you know
Oh,
who
okay,
Hitmaker
okay,
is.
yeah.
And so Berg, whatever we call him, asked me to come down and shoot his studio session. I had no idea who was going to be there that night, so it was Hefe, Lil Keed, and I dead ass forget the names of the other ones. Unfortunately,
It's all
there was
good.
like somebody Snake, I forget. But Lil Keed came through, and he was at the time. I have heard Hefe's music, but I didn't know what he even looked like at the time. I
Yeah.
didn't know who I was even photographing at the time. But sorry, but
good.
I of course knew who Lil Keed was, and my friend was the producer as well. His name is Source. He was like, "Yo, this is one of my favorite rappers coming through. Like, please, I just want like one photo of me and him together or whatever."
Oh,
but
yeah.
when he came through, he was just so sweet and so real. Like, he was there, like his family, his daughter and girl ended up coming through. He was, of course, with his little entourage, and he was probably just like the kindest person there that day.
Damn,
for
that's
sure.
amazing. Yeah, that's
so
dope.
I think he was skeptical, like everybody is, of like, why is this female taking photos of me right
Yeah,
now?
yeah.
Like, why are we, like, but at the same time, it was like, I think once people kind of like see me established in a room, everybody's always like question mark about me every time they see me, because nobody knows how to like put me in a box ever. But then once they see me doing my thing, it's like, oh, okay.
That's pretty
some respect
dope.
on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
then it's like,
yeah.
you're here for a reason. You're not like whatever. So,
Right.
So yeah, I was literally going through those photos, I think yesterday or the day before too.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's awesome. Because he was one of my favorite
Yeah.
rappers once he like got popping and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Like he was just so sweet and so different than a lot of other rappers.
Right.
Key Talk to Him is like one of my favorite projects.
Right.
I first played it when me and Gino first played it when we got to Miami, and anytime I go to Miami, it reminds me of Lil Key.
Yeah.
That's like, we were in like a Tesla, the panoramic roof was down.
Right,
Like,
yeah,
it was,
yeah.
I don't know, it was a good experience. Just switching gears a little bit. So what, Los Angeles, if you could give us a little rundown of, you don't have to get too specific, but just how has your experience been in Los Angeles, you know, whether you're shooting with the artist, if you're on set. I know sometimes you might just be on set or just, you know, in the general area. Just basically give us a rundown of how that's been so far, basically.
Yeah, LA was interesting. The whole reason why I moved to LA was because I was like flying out there so often for work anyway, that I was like, I may as well just be here so that I can just pull up on any time. But it's funny because by the time I moved out there, I only got the same amount of work. So I was like moonlighting as a graphic designer for this awesome like streetwear company too.
Oh, that's pretty dope.
So I was like, I had my check every month, but at the same time, I was like, the same times I would get called to fly in from Chicago, I was getting called. So I'm like, dang, it's not that. With the exception of the fact, like one of my best friends, Gabrielle, she is or was one of the series regular for one of the newer Power series, Tommy's spinoff.
Shit.
Yeah, so like the 4 stars. So that me and her happened to move to, because they filmed in Chicago, obviously.
Yeah.
And we happened to move to LA at the same time, and that was when she was like popping with all her press and Vogue parties and, you know, this and that. So that was exciting because I would like be able to like do everything with her and shoot her like fittings, and it was very Hollywood, very like, now here's these movie stars right here, like things like that. So LA was cool, and LA was like a lot of like everything that everybody dreams of being around up close, and it's just all smoke and mirrors. Like I'm at a Drake party, like the most interesting person in the room, and I'm like, why? Like I'm not even.
Really?
Yeah, that's how I felt.
Wow.
Like that's how I was just like, I mean, don't get me wrong, the women, a lot of them can be beautiful, the men, a lot of them can look pretty or whatever, but it is so much of like, this is how like they appear a certain way and they build themselves up. And so when we see LA or Hollywood or think about it like from the outside, we're like, those must be like the coolest. Yeah, they got everything. They're the prettiest, they're the whatever. And you get around them and they're like musty weirdos.
Right,
No
yeah,
offense,
yeah.
LA, but it was just like, why? Like I remember like seeing like men and women that I would like follow them on Instagram, and I'm like, yo, I can't believe that that's them. And then you like talk to them or you get around them and you're like, oh
wow.
no wonder
Fake
why
voice.
I go so far, because I got a personality. Like you know, it's crazy. It was crazy to me. Like it was just like wild. Everything's obtainable.
Yeah.
It was for me at least. So, and I just felt like it just wasn't very exciting for me. It wasn't very like, it just felt like I was just doing what everybody else was doing. And it wasn't me doing my own thing and excelling because of that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I thought that I would like that. I thought that I would like being in a city that's like made for creatives. But then when I was there, it's like, it's not actually made for creatives. It's made for like what people can get from you. And it just so happens that artists can give a lot to you and make you seem very cool.
Wow.
Me as a photographer, that's such a good currency for people. Like they want what I can give them to make them look better, whether it's my name attached to it or not. You know what I mean? So it's like,
So there's a lot of facades out there.
All
now.
of it.
Especially in the Instagram age too. I mean, I went out there a couple of years ago, and it's just crazy. Like we were on Melrose, and you just see like, okay, a badass Lambo, and then the next one's like a better Lambo with a different colorway. It's like everyone's just trying to like show off. And then met a local, and they're like, most of these people just rent their shit out.
Yeah.
Everyone, like, you just see a better car each time.
Yeah.
Right.
You see someone with a fire fit, like expensive fit, and then someone has like a more expensive fit, and it's just like, it seems like everyone there is just trying to like one up each other.
It is.
You know what I'm saying? For no reason.
And being an outer towner, and going to LA, I fell for the same okey doke, rented a Porsche, went out there, got a nice little spot, and
You just got to cosplay a Californian for a minute.
yeah, I mean, I think
Yeah, I know,
everybody
man.
has to cosplay at least once. You
Right,
gotta at
right.
least
You gotta go to
wanna
LA
fit
at least
in or
once.
feel like you belong there, especially if you want to move there. Kind of try to match the lifestyle a little bit to see if it's really the lifestyle that you even
Yeah.
want. And after I went out to LA a few times, off rip, I knew I never wanted to move there, and it kind of broke my heart because I was like, damn, I always wanted to live here.
Right.
But then once I went, first of all, I don't like the traffic.
Yeah.
Second of all, the city is actually crazier than it's projected or shown.
Right,
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
it's-
Don't go to
You
South
mean
Central.
like safety-wise?
Safety-wise.
Oh, yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
go to
Yeah.
South Central, man.
Yeah.
Don't never go to
Part
South
of why
Central.
I left is because my own neighbor stabbed me with a screwdriver.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's crazy.
That's a good
So
reason
that's
to
why
leave.
I was just like, okay, LA, you really
I'm outta here.
different.
Yeah, but
So
no.
yeah, no, it's crazy, and I never had something like that. Knock on wood in Detroit or Chicago. Like,
Ain't that crazy?
Yeah.
I've definitely been mugged and held at gunpoint more than once, but
Man.
I was never hurt, and it wasn't by somebody who lives next to
Next
me
to
in
me,
front
yeah.
of my own. You know what I mean?
That's
But, like,
wild.
yeah.
That is wild. Yeah.
So,
So
no, I agree. LA ain't shit.
So we talked a little bit about you growing up in Battle Creek and kind of being an artist here. So how do you see it now? You know what I'm saying? Like years later, how do you see the city in Battle? Like how do you see Battle Creek kind of expressing art and like do you see that they're embracing it a little bit more?
Definitely. I thought, first of all, I think one of the first things I started seeing was the murals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was so exciting. It was like I came back one time to visit family, and there's these murals. Actually, no, even before that, my dad literally called me like, oh my God, they just painted this owl mural on this wall, and like it's
Yeah.
so cool. And he's like telling me all about it, sending these pictures to my dad. So that's like somebody who's not an artist, who doesn't necessarily seek that out, who was like impressed and like really, really appreciated that. And so I was like, that's really cool. And then I saw it for myself, and I'm like, this is amazing to see, like, the. And then I was just like, are they all from Battle Creek? I was so like blown away, and I don't think everyone was. I think there was a mix,
And
right?
I think it's dope that it was a mix. I think it's dope that we had world-renowned people come.
Right,
With the
right.
guy that
Yeah.
created, he did work on Schoolboy Q's album
yeah,
cover.
Oh, Blue, yeah.
And he has a
Right.
Air Jordan 1 collab.
Yep, I know Blue.
Yeah, he did
yeah.
I didn't know he did it's
Like
around
that-
the
it's like a
Kellogg.
mummy, yeah, by the Kellogg Arena.
Yeah, I
at
thought
the
that
Kellogg
was
Arena.
dope. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
It's people that actually, also got credentials that come to little old Battle Creek and leave their stamp, and we have that forever.
Puts it on the map, and like I highly doubt Blue ever knew what the hell Battle Creek
Right,
was
right,
before
yeah.
that.
Probably not.
unless you know about Kellogg, which you're not associating the city with it anyway.
Right.
They
Yeah.
don't. Yeah.
So when I started seeing like the changes and differences, I was really excited. I am really excited for the city,
Hell
and then
yeah.
like something like this too, this show, like being asked to do this, I just think is amazing, and I'm really honored because
Thank you.
thank you, because when I was here, like I said, like there wasn't that representation.
Yeah.
There wasn't that like, look what you can do. There wasn't anybody taking it really seriously, giving it a space, most importantly, giving it a voice, like all of these things, like there wasn't that. So, and if there was, it was very, very like compartmentalized,
Yeah.
you know? And so now I see and like hear everything that's going on with y'all, and it's like you are creating a space that people can have dreams in.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what is the most important. Like that's what gets people through their days.
Right.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So like now I spoke to a girl before we started filming, and she was asking me about how she can go to the college I went to, like what advice, and I'm like, that like gives me life. You feel me?
Yeah. That's
dope.
Because it's
That's
just
awesome.
like you want to, like I'm able to help somebody if I can, or even if it's like a discussion or advice, like I'm able to help somebody like feel like, first of all, like their like passion matters, and that you can excel in it, and that like you aren't alone, and like all those things, because I felt very alone, like
Right.
as an artist in Battle Creek. And even like I told this story to Justin and them, like when we first met up was that like even like our high school, it wasn't a valedictorian, but I probably shouldn't say this on the podcast. So
you could say it.
But it was just like even the speech that was given at our graduation was like hating on artists to the point where like the kids behind me in the seats were like, Haley. And it was just like, if you're an artist, you're doing nothing. Basically, you're not giving anything. You're not whatever. Like if you're a nurse or a doctor, whatever, like thank you for your service. You're doing the most. And like, of course they are.
Right.
We applaud them. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that like artists are doing nothing. And that doesn't mean whatever. So, and I was like known as the artist kid. So it was like, it was just like a direct stab, and there's no way it wasn't. Like, it was not a coincidence. So it
Which
was
high
just
school
like
did you go to?
Lakeview. Of course, right? Of course. Right. So it was just like, I wonder if even, I know that Kayla's over there, my classmate, remembers that. I'm going to have to ask her about that. But it was just like, it was crazy because, like, even that, like, I'll never forget that time because my whole family, everybody, because right afterwards, we were being announced our awards, like people who got scholarships here and there, and mine was announced. I got a full ride scholarship to my college based off my portfolio. Thank God, you know. And it was like this moment of like my first time being recognized. You know what I mean, as an artist and taken seriously, and like here's keys and tools to take the next step. And then at the same time, I had just been like essentially publicly bullied during my graduation speech that was like, artists are fucking pointless.
That's crazy.
And I'm like, dang. So, I mean, that girl today is trying to be an artist, so.
Wow.
Awesome.
It's funny
No,
how
Full
things work
circle
out.
moment. That's what
really
I love. That's what I
inspiring.
do it
It's
for.
really inspiring. It's dope to hear your story.
Yeah.
And it's cool because it's not like, I feel like you're not over here like, oh, like, fuck all y'all. You know, like, that's not really your attitude. You're just like, this is who I always was, and, like, I know this, and this is who I'm going to continue to be. You
Humble
know?
beast.
Yeah, gotta be.
Simple.
Yeah,
Will you, hey, I like that humble, but that's the,
Right.
will you kind of talk a little bit about the show coming up, the Que Calor, here at Cafe Rica? What can, like, we expect? Just talk about it a little bit without giving too much details, you know?
Yeah, so I am super excited to be the headlining artist for Que Calor. It doesn't sound as cool when I say it
That's
as
pretty-
you
hey,
do.
that's
I
pretty
need to like
dope.
sound bite you in there.
Que Calor. Que Calor.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, right. But they asked me to do, I think it's around like 10 to 12 pieces, something like that. I'm going to do my best to print my faves as big as possible, you know.
Hell yeah.
And it's just going to be a mix of like things that are my style, from rappers, you know, to city shots, to vibes, to whatever. So it's going to be that, some things that I'm sure if anybody knows my work that they would want to see, but then also some new stuff too. Some stuff that people haven't seen, like not even online. So that should be cool. And then I want to bring my camera too, or like a Polaroid, or do, you know, some kind of like,
That'd be
here's a
dope.
quick little like
yeah.
shot by
Quick little
sugar, you
Polaroids,
know?
yeah, no, that's
pretty dope.
That's pretty
Because,
dope.
you know, so much of my work is surrounded around like portraits of people. Earlier you made a comment kind of like, do I ever get a chance to speak to these people, or like things like that, right? The way that I approach pretty much anything I do, it's more of like, I already have the in, and I'm kind of friends with the person, or I've like made this personal connection already, and then the work comes, versus like, we got a photographer to show up on the job and take your photos, you know, like they already know who I am, and we're like meeting like essentially as equals, right? So it's kind of like my portraiture is really important to me, because it's not like somebody was just like, here's a photographer. It was like, you know, like this is a relationship. I have a relationship with this person. These are vulnerable moments that you wouldn't have gotten if you were just like a service worker, you know, not to discredit any of those people, but like that's part of like what I've worked hard in my work. So
I love that. I love
anyway,
that. I think that's always way better, you know, to make a connection with your work, you know what I'm saying, rather than it, like you said, than just being like, here's a service.
Right. Yeah. So that's why. So like any of the portraits that I feature will be something, you know, along those lines of like my style, but then also like this is like an intimate moment that wouldn't have been seen otherwise. So yeah,
That's pretty dope. What would you say would be like the easiest way somebody could contact you for services?
Probably through email. You could definitely try through Instagram, but I'm not the best at replying to anything. But email definitely. Depending on the scale of things, if they really wanted to do the most corporate wise, I have a manager. They could reach out to my manager too.
Okay, that's pretty
but
dope.
I can also take personal emails, which is all that's linked to my Instagram.
Is your manager linked to the Instagram as well?
No,
or just...
I should probably. He doesn't even have social media.
You
But
can get
I could
us
just
that
get
info.
my own email for him or something
Okay.
like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But I could link that, or I gotta figure that out probably. I'm very much like an aloof artist that I'm just like, I just do what I do.
Okay, no, I respect that. It's working. You got a formula that you've been sticking to. So,
Facts.
yeah.
Well, I
Yeah.
think I think that's about all I have. I don't know
I mean,
about
I'm
you.
pretty much.
But,
I think this was one of the. To me, it was probably the most one of our.
Yeah, I
insightful-
was really excited for this. And, I texted him this morning. I'm like, bro, I'm not gonna lie. I had a dream last night that this podcast went really well.
Yeah,
yay.
he did.
Like,
He did. I got the
It's gonna
text
go well.
message. He's not capping.
I was
so-
like, I had a dream that like this went really well for us. So I was pretty excited too.
Nothing
Just
to
to have
worry
someone
about.
like
Yeah.
another artist and someone that just by looking through your Instagram, it feels like you love your work. I don't know how to
Yeah.
explain that, but I
Yeah.
just got the
I
vibe that
appreciate
you love
that.
your
You
work.
could tell.
Thank
You can
you.
tell you really enjoy what you do. And then I just love that we got somebody that can show representation of what
Yep.
the outside of Battle Creek.
Mm-hmm.
How you can project and excel like further beyond just seeing it on social media because
Yeah.
nowadays the kids are TikTok. Instagram, everything is
Yeah.
online.
It's so
a lot of
fast,
it's
everything,
fast
yeah.
too, saturated everything. But
Oh, yeah.
just you giving more insight to what it's actually like from somebody being there firsthand. To me, that's pretty dope, and it's very informative too for anybody who was wondering what their
Yeah.
favorite artist is like.
Yeah, no,
Right.
your
I've
your
probably
story is
worked
really
with them.
your story is really inspiring, and I'm glad you got to share it on our podcast. Real quick before we sign off, like, what's one last message that you have for anyone trying to pursue some sort of art? If you want to relate it to photography, that's fine. But just like, what's an advice for someone younger, someone in high school, just for the youth? Like, what's your advice to them? Someone that's trying to pursue this as a career.
I would say the possibilities are literally endless. Like, you can do anything, and you have to believe in yourself because a lot of times nobody else will.
Right.
And
Sheesh.
if you do believe in yourself, you absolutely can make everything
Yeah.
happen. So that's what it took for me. That's what it takes for me every day. And you can make a way out of nothing. You can make art out of nothing. You can make a statement out of nothing. Like, it's who you are, and you have to rely on who you are. So the business will fall into place. Like, what you're meant to do will be, but like, staying true to who you are is the most important thing for an artist because everything that we create has to come from like our heart and soul if it's real, if it's not just content, if it's
Right.
art, so that being said, like, as long as you are being yourself, like, you'll always be great and you can do whatever.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Amazing. I love that. I love that so
That's
much.
dope, man.
Make sure you guys check out Que Calor here at Cafe Rica in Battle Creek, Michigan, April 15th. You guys can check out Haley's work as well as Deja, who will be here.
That's dope.
Sugar Milk with 2 Ks.
Sugar Milk with 2 Ks. Don't forget. Basically, we just want to thank Cafe Rica for giving us the setup to do what we do.
Thank you, Cafe Rica.
ACCBC for
Appreciate
also making
you.
this happen.
Yep. Breaking Bread, Cafe Rica, Color of the Creek,
Yep.
everyone. So thank you guys so
Thank
much. We
you,
appreciate
thank
y'all.
you.
Hey, I gotta do it. That's been a Good Stay podcast. We hope the stay was good.
We'll catch you guys on the next one.
Type shit.
Type shit.